no idea because he never uses those. As opposed to last lesson when I think you borrowed one. Yeah, that was. Okay, we're going to use Desmos again, but there is a word that we need to make sure, which we need to know about the domain. All right, what the domain is. So we're going to have a look at these questions that are in practice 1, but starting at question 3 on page 109. All right. Yes. No, because you'll waste time, especially when there's one in this room that Mr. Carboni can check up on whether it's you that logged in or not. There is one there.
But he never bothers me.
He never bothers. No. If you need to go and get your laptop. Alright, so I introduced you last lesson to the equation of a line that shows you constant change, and what do they look like? So it's a relationship between two things. We would say a relationship between y and x. Alright? And when we do this, there will normally be something that you multiply x by to figure out what y is. You may well have to add or subtract something on as well. Now you can see it's y equals ax plus b, but sometimes, and quite often in fact, it's also known as mx plus c. Either or. If we follow the normal routes for IB, then it'll be ax plus b. But mx plus c is a normal one as well. Right, so what we're going to do, we'll look at this question 3, and it says the increase in demand for cars that run on electricity or solar power has begun to reduce our emission of greenhouse gases. Electric cars run on lithium-ion batteries, the cost of which has been dropping so dramatically that they are becoming more affordable to more people. Anyone see in the news about the new Tesla truck thing? No. No, it looks like a really boxy space age thing, but it's an electric truck for America, like a pickup truck type thing. But it's saying it looks really weird, and it's supposed to be having indestructible glass in it as well. And then in their demo, they chucked a metal ball at the glass in it, and it broke. 2 windows. They did it once and it broke, and then they did, oh, let's try the other window, and that broke as well. Awesome. So in the kind of display to everyone about their indestructible stuff. Okay, so we're looking at this. So it says in 2010 the cost of a lithium-ion battery was $1,000 per kilowatt hour. So a kilowatt hour is a unit of energy. So 1,000 watt appliance used for 1 hour uses 1 kilowatt hour. The price of these batteries has been decreasing by $125 per kilowatt hour every year. So can you see already, Jelena, that that's a constant change? What's the constant change that was in that statement?
It's changing. I don't know.
Oh, I thought when you nodded you were like, yeah. No?
It's changing.
What's changing?
The price of the batteries.
Yeah. Why is it a constant change?
Because it's changing at a certain amount of time every year. It's changing the same amount every year.
That's it. It's the amount every year. It's changing every year the same. So if we were to represent this pattern with a table of values from 2010 until the current year, how would you do that? If we were going to answer that question. So we need a table.
Well, so in 2010, then go to 2011.
Sorry, Cameron had his hand up.
So we explain it's like each year price. So one would be year, like Y would be year, then X would be price.
Okay, so we've got our X and Y. And what would X be, did you say?
I guess X would be time.
So that would be years, yeah?
And
Okay.
the Y would be price. And for every 1 year that goes by, the price would decrease by 1
So what would be our first? So it said here in 2010 the cost of a lithium-ion battery was. So do we put 2010 and the price is $1,000? All right, and then the next one would be 2011. 2013, and what would these only be?
175
Sure? 875?
Yeah.
And then the next one would be, come on, subtracting 125.
750.
Yes.
750, 625, 500. Okay. Alright. The current year, well, we've got to go all the way up to 2019. Okay. So we could fill them all in, but I'm just going to go straight to 2019, and what would that be then? Any quick way of doing it?
25 times 5 is how much it decreases.
Okay, so from 14 to 19 is 5 years, yeah? So we're going to subtract 5 lots of 125, which is? So we're going to subtract 5 lots of 125 is?
Yeah, I'm negative 125. They didn't think.
We're getting deep.
No, I want to know what 5 lots of 125 is.
Oh.
625.
625. So we need to subtract 625 from our 500. So that would lead us with negative 125. So that means they're paying you to take one of their batteries.
They clearly weren't thinking about they were using this textbook.
Are you sure?
I think the data stopped at a certain point where it wouldn't go.
Because it says represent the pattern as a set of coordinates. So we've got to talk about that. How will we, if we're going to draw a graph, all right, what would the coordinates be? What would you use as your x values, and what would you use as your y values?
No, it wouldn't make sense because it's still going to negative either way. So, you use
Some people are already typing things in. That's not what I want at the moment.
negative.
Because there's a couple of ways to do this. Would you just put in 2010, 2011, 2012?
We could put
You
one,
could do that.
go out year 1, year 2, year.
Okay, so what we could also
Or
do,
year
just out of
0,
interest, is
and then year
we
1.
could treat this as 0, as long as we labelled it as y would be the years after 2010. We could then say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's important actually because of writing the equation. So those of you that have just kind of done 2010, 20, it will work, all right? But you might find it difficult to write an equation afterwards. So just in case you weren't totally sure, I was expecting you to have your books out and writing these notes down. All right. Now, so we could represent it as that, but my tip is we need to think, right, with years especially, we'll start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. What would a negative number in years represent then?
Ooh, years after.
Time before 2010 in this case, yeah? So if 2010 is year 0, okay? 2009 is -1. Good. Right, now, the question that, well, Jacques was a bit too quick, you see. So Jacques said, they obviously didn't think about when this book was going to be used. But C says, state your domain and justify your boundaries.
Oh, so
Because I was saying to you up here, look, we need to look at this word, domain. And the domain would be all possible x values that can be used. So, if the domain is all possible x values that can be used, we've been given a nice example here of where some x values can't be used, haven't we? So what would be the boundary of my domain? What would be the limit to my domain in this situation? 2018, isn't it?
Oh, wait.
Because in 2018, what is the value of a battery?
Zero.
Zero. So we would maybe say this is the limit to the domain. In this situation, I would say that's my upper limit. Yes?
You also argue that the second one is because if it's rather an application, they would be giving away batteries for free.
But do they not?
I mean, they do if it's like really bad.
Because, for instance, do you know about the Bugatti Veyron? Volkswagen made it. Yeah, it's got not directly linked, but you know that they made a loss on every one they sold. It was just an exercise in branding. It's like they wanted to be seen as the company that made this. All right, so they could sell other things. So actually, within these cars, at some point that battery might have to be given away as part of the car. So you only value the car without the battery in it. The battery is just there. Yeah. It's like your mobile phones now. Do you actually think of, do they get cheaper because the batteries are getting cheaper? Or have they already got to the stage where the battery's just part of the phone? But what they're not going to do is going to reduce the cost of the phone because the battery's gone past zero. But, as you said, it could be argued. You could argue it, because it does say justify your answer. All right? So that would be, is there an upper limit? Sorry, that is the upper limit. Is there a lower limit about my domain?
I guess the invention of lithium.
Yeah.
So it does say in 2010 the cost of a lithium-ion battery was 1,000. We haven't been given any information about whether that was the first year they became available. Was that the most expensive they were ever going to be? Okay.
And then to lower limit is not, we don't know if it's a linear relationship before 2010.
Very good point as well, right? That's another thing we should
yeah.
discuss. We've got a linear relationship of minus $125, okay, from 2010 to 2018. It stops at that point. We can't go any lower. But also, as Jacques said, we've got no information before this point. It might not be that cheap. It might stay at 1,000. It might not be following the same relationship. So this is an important point about the domain. We have to consider the numbers that we're actually putting in. All right? Yes?
Because with things like this, with the actual thing that you're talking about, to real life situation,
Yeah.
with, for example, just the battery, going all the way back to when I was invented isn't correct because they don't give you the info on the linear relationship before that. So then you can only go up to then, unless you're assuming that it doesn't, which you can't.
Yeah, exactly that. Does anyone remember what it was called when I go outside of my data set to try and predict what it was before that time? Did I tell you?
No.
No? If you go outside of your data set to try and predict what's happening, it's called extrapolation. Right? Extrapolation. This word, extrapolation. And that is always, that's not always, but it is unreliable to go outside of your data set, because as you've already said, you don't know whether we follow the same rules outside of what we can see already. Yeah.
Isn't it also sort of extrapolation to say that it'll continue by that rate after whenever we say it's not being collected, but we're not supposed to know?
Well, yes, you are right, but it does say in the question, I guess, the price of these batteries has been decreasing every year. All right, so because it doesn't say what year today is, there is, the way they've written it is quite nice in that whatever year we are doing this, we can assume it has happened all the way. All right, but you are right. If we were in 2012 now, if we were reading this question in 2012 to say 2018 is when it would be 0, you were right. That would be extrapolation as well. But because we're past that point, okay, it's called extrapolation. Right, so what you can do, so it says in part E, we've already talked about this, what do you think will eventually happen to the price of lithium-ion batteries? Will the pattern continue forever? No, we've had that discussion. They'll get to 0. Actually, do you think they'll ever get to exactly 0?
No.
It depends, doesn't it? Because it depends whether we're talking about selling a battery or having a thing in it which the battery's put in. Two different situations. If I wanted to buy a battery, it would cost me money. It's like you guys. How much does it cost for a set of earbuds for an iPhone?
100 and AirPods?
AirPods or earbuds?
Which one? Like
The earbud stuff.
Oh,
Doesn't
yeah,
matter.
like $100 something.
Okay? But if I buy a phone that they come with,
Like $800. Come on.
they're free, aren't they?
Yeah, they come.
Technically, because you come with the phone.
And you buy the phone.
And you buy the phone and you get the AirPods with it. Right. Sometimes, you know. Now, you could discuss, well, maybe the price of the phone has been raised because of it, but,
Yeah.
you know, quite often, if we go back to the other ones, the wired ones, they're definitely given away free with the phones these days, aren't they?
Yeah.
But if you wanted to go in and replace your broken ones, they cost you money. So this is a discussion you could have. What criterion are we talking here now? D. We're doing a D. All right. So what I'd like you to do now, some of you have already done it. You can plot the line on your computer. Try and write the equation of the line that goes through all your points. All right. Now you will find that easier if you've put 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Write answers for all A, B, C, D, and E, as we've talked about them, because they will be your model answers for if I ask you a question like this in assessment. So if you don't bother, you won't be able to follow up when I say, right, you're going to do these sort of things in assessment. Once you're happy with those, then you can go on and do the same sort of thing in question 4 and 5. Is that clear? Good. Go for it.